Peace, love, and light. Peace, love, and light. You already know, and if you don't know, they call me Rich Boykin, the Hitman. And I got another bar for y'all. Why being intelligent is hated by society. You know, like, I realized that when you start to educate yourself, you run into the problem of thinking that people know what you educated yourself on, because that what you educated yourself on is within your awareness now. So you carry it with you and you think everybody can see it. But I'm here to tell a lot of you, it's not for everybody. So I ran across this video. It's 11 minutes and 50 seconds, which can describe how I feel deeply, or how I think deeply on this subject. Being hated by society.
It sometimes feels like a curse. Why do the most intelligent people often end up alone, while those of average minds seem to thrive socially? Arthur Schopenhauer, one of history's most brutally honest philosophers, cracked this riddle nearly 200 years ago. He established that intelligence itself becomes a mirror, reflecting back others' limitations. And people never forgive you for showing them what they don't want to see. Most people think it's just coincidence, that brilliant minds often live lonely lives. Or maybe smart people are just socially awkward. But Schopenhauer saw something deeper, a pattern that plays out in every society, in every age. He noticed something interesting. When you put an intelligent person in a room, they don't have to say a word to make others uncomfortable. Their mere presence becomes like holding up a mirror to everyone else's limitations. And nobody likes looking in a mirror that shows them things they'd rather ignore. Think about it. We celebrate all kinds of superiority. Money, people love rich folks. Good looks, we can't get enough. Even physical strength gets admiration. But superior intelligence, that's different. It stirs up a special kind of resentment, a quiet hatred that most people won't even admit to themselves. So how did Schopenhauer come to understand this dark side of human nature, and why do his insights matter more than ever in today's world? Born in 1788 in Germany, Schopenhauer wasn't just some ivory tower philosopher theorizing about life. He lived through the exact dynamics he wrote about. As a young lecturer, he scheduled his university classes at the same time as the famous philosopher Hegel, who he saw as a complete fraud. While Hegel's lectures packed the halls, Schopenhauer's sat empty. But instead of just getting bitter, he got curious. Why did people flock to comforting nonsense while avoiding harder truths? He started watching how people behaved around intelligence, not just in universities, but everywhere. He saw the same pattern over and over. The smarter someone was, the more others found subtle ways to exclude them. Not because they were rude or arrogant, just because their intelligence itself made others feel smaller. Living modestly off his inheritance, Schopenhauer had the freedom to observe society without needing its approval. He watched how people gathered in groups, who they welcomed, who they pushed away. The patterns he saw weren't pretty, but they were consistent. Modern science has caught up with what Schopenhauer observed through pure insight. Recent studies in social psychology reveal fascinating evidence about why intelligent people face social rejection. Brain imaging research shows something remarkable. When people feel intellectually inferior, it activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. It's not just a figure of speech when people say intelligence hurts their ego. It literally triggers pain responses in the brain. A 2021 study found that exposure to superior intelligence activates our threat detection systems. The amygdala, our brain's alarm system, lights up when we encounter someone significantly smarter than us. It's the same response we have to physical threats, explaining why the reaction feels so instinctive and hard to control. Researchers at Stanford discovered something even more interesting. This response is stronger in group settings. When people are alone with someone more intelligent, the threat response is minimal. But add more people to the room, and it spikes dramatically. Our brains seem wired to protect our social status more than our private self-image. But this hardwired response isn't the whole story. What Schopenhauer discovered about how we consciously process this unconscious reaction reveals something even more profound. And what he discovered about how intelligence affects human behavior would explain something that had puzzled people for centuries. Here's what Schopenhauer discovered. People don't just randomly dislike intelligence. It triggers something deep in human psychology, something most of us won't even admit to ourselves. When someone smarter enters a conversation, everyone else unconsciously measures themselves against them, not because they want to, but because they can't help it. It's like putting a professional athlete in a casual pickup game. Suddenly, everyone feels their limitations. Schopenhauer noticed how people react to this feeling. They don't say, "Wow, this person makes me feel dumb." Instead, they assume the intelligent person looks down on them. Even if the smart person hasn't said a word about their intelligence, others feel judged just by their presence. And here's the really fascinating part. The smarter someone is, the less they might actually judge others. But that doesn't matter. People react to the mirror intelligence holds up, not to any real judgment. It's why you'll often hear things like, "They think they're so smart," about people who've never claimed to be smart at all. But why do we react this way to intelligence when other kinds of superiority don't bother us nearly as much? Schopenhauer noticed something fascinating about how intelligence affects men and women differently in society. While both face rejection, the dynamics play out in unique ways. For intelligent men, the rejection often comes as direct confrontation or subtle exclusion. But for intelligent women, Schopenhauer observed a double bind. They face resistance not just for their intelligence, but for breaking social expectations about how women should present themselves. He pointed out how society often forces intelligent women to choose between being liked and being respected. While beauty in women is celebrated, intelligence gets a different response. An intelligent, beautiful woman, he noted, often faces more isolation than either quality alone would cause. Beauty attracts superficial attention, while intelligence pushes it away. Modern research backs this up. Studies show intelligent women often downplay their capabilities in social settings, something their male counterparts feel less pressure to do. They're more likely to face what psychologists now call the competence-likability trade-off. The more competent they appear, the less likable they're rated by both men and women. Isn't it interesting just how the most popular person in a group rarely seems to be the smartest? Schopenhauer explained why. Mediocrity makes people comfortable. It's like a warm blanket that tells everyone, "Don't worry, you're just fine as you are." Average minds have a special social power. They don't challenge anyone's self-image. They don't accidentally make others question themselves. Instead, they make everyone feel good about their own level of thinking. Think about conversations at most social gatherings. They stick to simple topics, obvious jokes, basic observations, because keeping things surface level keeps everyone comfortable. The moment someone introduces a more complex idea, you can feel the room tense up. Schopenhauer saw how this played out in every field. Mediocre artists got more exhibitions than brilliant ones. Average writers sold more books than profound ones. Not because people couldn't tell the difference, but because mediocrity never makes them feel inadequate. Now let me show you how this same pattern plays out in today's world and why it might be even stronger than ever. Look around your workplace or scroll through social media. Schopenhauer's insights are playing out everywhere, just in modern forms. That brilliant colleague who gets left out of lunch invites, the thoughtful posts that get ignored while simple memes go viral. It's the same pattern he spotted 200 years ago. In today's offices, we've given it new names. We talk about being a culture fit or having emotional intelligence. Sure, these things matter, but how often is not a culture fit really code for makes others feel intellectually uncomfortable? Even in tech companies that claim to value intelligence, you'll notice the most successful people aren't usually the smartest. They're the ones who make others feel smart. Social media has made this even more obvious. Complex ideas get ignored while oversimplified hot takes go viral. Why? Because depth makes people think, and thinking makes people uncomfortable. It's easier to share a simple opinion that makes everyone nod than a complex truth that makes people question things. Even in education, we see it. Schools claim to value intelligence, but watch what really gets rewarded. It's usually not the most original thinkers, but the ones who make ideas simple enough for everyone to feel included. Here's the strangest part of how society treats intelligence. We need it desperately, but resist it actively. Schopenhauer called this the ultimate social paradox. Every society celebrates its geniuses after they're dead. Newton, Einstein, Marie Curie, we put them on pedestals now. But during their lives, Newton was notorious for his lack of friends. Einstein was called a fool by his teachers. Curie was rejected by the scientific establishment. This paradox shows up everywhere. Companies claim they want innovative thinkers, then reject ideas that challenge the status quo. Universities say they seek brilliant minds, then reward conformity over originality. Society needs progress but fights the very people who create it. Schopenhauer explained that intelligence is the only form of power that can't be controlled or predicted. You can regulate wealth, limit physical strength, even manage beauty standards. But you can't control what a truly intelligent person might think or discover next. Understanding this pattern doesn't mean you're doomed to social isolation. Schopenhauer wasn't just pointing out problems, he was showing us a map. Once you understand why intelligence creates social friction, you can learn to navigate it better. First, recognize that you're not doing anything wrong by being intelligent. The reaction you get isn't personal, it's a natural social dynamic. Understanding this alone can lift a huge weight off your shoulders. Second, learn to read the room. There's a time and place for deep thinking. Save your most complex ideas for people and situations where they'll be appreciated. This isn't about dumbing yourself down, it's about choosing your moments wisely. Third, find your tribe. Schopenhauer noticed that truly intelligent people tend to form small, tight-knit groups. Today, with the internet, it's easier than ever to connect with minds that match yours. You don't need everyone to understand you, just enough people who do. Some of history's most successful intellectuals found ways to bridge this gap between intelligence and social acceptance. They developed specific strategies that we can learn from. Take Richard Feynman, the brilliant physicist. He became famous not just for his genius, but for his ability to make complex ideas accessible without dumbing them down. He used simple language and relatable examples, making his intelligence inviting rather than threatening. Ada Lovelace, often called the first computer programmer, created what she called social laboratories, gatherings where intelligent people could interact freely while making others feel welcome to join and learn. She showed that intelligence doesn't have to be isolating if you create the right environment. Even Benjamin Franklin, despite his towering intellect, deliberately presented himself as a constant learner rather than an authority. He would often phrase his ideas as questions or suggestions, making his intelligence feel like a shared journey rather than a superior position. Now, let me show you how all this comes together to change the way you approach social situations. Look, being intelligent doesn't mean you're destined for loneliness. Schopenhauer wasn't telling us these things to make us feel hopeless. He was showing us reality so we could deal with it better. Think about some of history's greatest minds. Darwin spent years in isolation developing his ideas. Einstein worked in a patent office, away from academia. Marie Curie faced constant resistance. Yet they all found their way to make an impact, and more importantly, to find fulfillment. The key isn't to hide your intelligence or pretend to be something you're not. It's about understanding the social dynamics at play and working with them, not against them. Sometimes that means stepping back. Other times it means finding the right audience. Always it means staying true to yourself while being smart about how you engage with others. Remember, just because society often resists intelligence doesn't mean it doesn't need it. Every major advance in human history came from someone who thought differently, who saw deeper, who dared to be smarter than average. That's not going to change. Next time you feel that social pushback against your intelligence, remember what Schopenhauer taught us. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just holding up a mirror, and how others react to their reflection isn't your responsibility. If this video resonated with you, share your experiences in the comments below. How have you dealt with the social challenges of being intelligent? And if you want to explore more insights from history...
That was heavy. That was heavy. Peace, love, and light.